You're gonna be pulling comps. We're talking about pulling comps now. What are comps? What are comps? When you get in real estate, in the real estate investing world, you want to know the lingo. You want to know the inside language per se. Okay, you want to be able to understand the inside language. The more professional and credible you will sound with your lenders, other investors, realtors. You know, when you're talking to sellers, you also want to know that lingo. You want to be able to talk to a seller like, oh yeah, I found a 3-2 with 1 point financing on a sub carryback mortgage, stuff like that. Okay, you want to be able to say that. And now the seller may not or may understand what you're saying. If the seller doesn't understand, take that opportunity to educate them. Take that opportunity to let them know that, okay, well, 3-2 is a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house. Okay, a comp, it's short for comparables, which is what real estate appraisers use. It's kind of like a term in their language, in their language, and that's pretty much what a lot of investors use. All investors use when they're referring to comparables on a property. With characteristics, so the characteristics on a comparable property, the comparable is it has the same characteristics as the subject property. Okay, so whatever property you're looking at, that means that the comp has comparable features, characteristics to the subject property that you're looking at. Okay, so if you're looking at a 3-2 property with 155 square feet, and no garage, then that's when you want to look around the area and start to find properties that that match those exact characteristics, those exact features. You want to find other 3-2 properties with no garage and 150 something, whatever I said, square feet in that area. Because once you find those types of properties, it'll tell you the ARV, which is very important when doing your comparable market analysis. You want to avoid major streets and intersections. Okay, so the reason why you want to do this is on Elm Street, the properties might be 300 to 500K, where to on Side Street, the properties is like 6 to 800K, and you have to really think about it. Like, if you can't find a property within the same vicinity as your subject property, then is it really a deal? Is it really a good deal? Not to say that you're not gonna ever have to venture outside of your area where your subject property is. Not to ever say that you're on Elm Street, your property's on Elm Street, and you'll never have to cross Side Street. You might have to do that, but at all costs, like, it needs to be your last resort. Okay, don't just go as like, oh well, there's this one property over here, and you just want that one property. No, you have to. You don't have to, but you need to try as much as possible to stay within that street, and don't cross major intersections and streets. Okay. Another thing is to find properties closely similar to the features of your subject property, and what that means, like I said, like a 3-2. You want to find other 3-2s. You don't want to compare apples to oranges. Okay. You want to find other properties with 3-2, with 3 bedrooms and 2 baths. You don't want a 4-bedroom, 5-bath. You don't want that. You don't want your subject property to have no garage, street parking, and you're comparing it to a property with a garage. Okay? You don't want to have a property that is 800 square feet and you're comparing it to a property that's 200,000 square feet. Okay, you don't want that. That's apples and oranges. You don't want that. You can't come up with the correct ARV if you're comparing apples and oranges. You can't do that. Okay, when you're comparing a property, when you're running your comps, when you're looking for comps, and here's an insider tip. Like, You want to find at least 3 comparable properties to your subject property. Okay? You want to have at least 3 properties, at least 3, that have already been sold on top of the property that you're looking at. Okay, so you have your subject property and you have 3 comparable properties. And out of those 3 comparable properties, they need to be as close as possible to the subject property. You're looking for a twin, per se. Okay, when you're looking for comps in your property, keep in mind that you're looking for a twin. It's on the same street. It's the exact same beds, exact same rooms. Exact same bath, exact same, square footage, in the exact same neighborhood. That's what you're looking for. Those are prime examples of having comparables. Okay, those are prime examples of wanting to find a comparable property to your subject property. Okay, your comps will never match exactly, so you have to adjust your pricing. It's very rare for you to find an exact match on a property, but you want to get it as close as possible to an exact match on your subject property. So it's very hard for you. It's going to be a little bit of a challenge to find a property that's, say your subject property is 800, 1,800 square feet, upstairs, downstairs, and all this great stuff in Kaimo Key or something like that. Okay, so it's gonna be a little bit of a challenge for you to find a 800 square feet, 1,800 square feet with out in Kaimo Key on the same exact street. It's gonna be just a tad bit of a challenge, but there are different tools. You can ask realtors to run comps for you, but if you're doing it yourself, you can use like Zillow, Realtor.com, Trilla. You can use all of those things, but don't just use one. You know what I'm saying? A lot of investors don't really like to use Zillow for comps, but it's an option. Do I use Zillow? No, I do not. I use another site. Anyways, so don't get beat up if you can't find an exact match to the property. Don't beat yourself up about that, okay? Don't be like, shitty deal. I don't want it. I can't find an exact match. No, it's not like that. It's just going to be a little bit of a challenge for you to find an exact match. But you want to get that match as close as possible to your subject property. Okay? When you get your subject property and you find a couple of comparables. So when you find that, you want to take a drive in the area. Check out the neighborhood, see who waters their grass, see who takes out the trash, see who's got boarded windows. What does the neighborhood look like? Okay? What does the neighborhood look like? If there's multiple properties that, okay, perfect example. I went out to this property out in, I want to say it was like a Nanakuli, Ko'olina type spot. It was like kind of in the middle, meet in the middle type thing. It's like right before you get to Nanakuli, but coming out of like, I want to say like Ko'olina, Kapole. So, I drive there. I drive up. I see the property, the subject property, and it's in like a condo sack kind of thing. And I noticed that right across the street is an abandoned property. And now a lot of people are like, oh, why didn't you just buy that one too? Think about it, guys. If right across the street is an abandoned property, and on top of that, if you went a little bit further down, like if you came out of the condo sack and went a little bit further down, like I did, there was another property. It wasn't abandoned, but it was a little trashy. Okay, so what does that tell you? Properties are staying on the market, and so it's bringing down the value of that area. Okay, because not a lot of people are moving in. Not a lot of people are, the houses aren't really looking pristine in that area. You know what I'm saying? So it brings down the value, and that's why when we buy a property and we fix it up, it brings up the value in a market area. That's just a conversation for a different time. But take a drive around the neighborhood and see what the neighborhood looks like. What are the people like? Is Mr. and Mrs. Johnson outside watering their grass at 12 o'clock in the afternoon? Are the kids outside playing on the streets? Is it safe enough for the kids to come outside and play on the streets? Are there white picket fences? How many are there homeless? You know what I'm saying? How many properties can you find on the same street that are just boarded up? Windows are just boarded up and it's all over the place. It's just not happening. You know what I mean? So you want to always take a drive around the neighborhood. Here's a quick tip though. Keep this part in mind. Don't waste your gas driving around the neighborhood if you can't even find comparables. You can always do a virtual drive. Google Maps has this feature to where like you can virtually drive the street. You know what I mean? If you're gonna really like put this property under contract, by all means go down there in person, check out the neighborhood. But if you're just like running a practice analysis, don't waste your gas to go all the way down there. Do a virtual drive. You know what I mean? Do it from your computer. Right there online, bound, check it out, look around, see what it looks like. And if you put the property under contract, obviously you're gonna have to go down there and put the property under contract. Use that time to drive around in the neighborhood. You know what I'm saying? You whenever possible. I'm not gonna say you always want, because I have had an investor pull like comps off of a expired listing, but most of the time the way I learned it is that you want to pull comps on sold properties. So if the property that you're comparing it to is sold, then you know that these types of properties are actually selling. You know what I'm saying? And that's another thing. You want to pull another quick tip. What is that? 3-in-1? So you want to make sure that the property has been sold within at least a year to 6 months. 6 months is ideal. Okay. You also want to make sure that, like I said, you want to have it almost exact match to your subject property. So you want to make sure that that property was sold in that area, in that neighborhood, without passing any major streets or intersections. Okay. So, God, I wish I had a whiteboard to show you guys. But yeah, whenever possible, you want to pull comps that on properties that have already been sold. Okay, they're already got off the market. Someone's already bought them. You know for a fact that this is what it's sold for. This is what other properties just like this one sold for. So this 3-2 property compared to these 3-3-2 properties, this property sold at 50. The next property sold at 60. The next property sold at another 50. You know that your ARV, you know that your property might be able to sell around that range because these properties sold around that range and they were exactly or almost exactly the same property as your subject property. And so that's how you're going to be able to tell, like, okay, this is what I'm comparing your property. So when you present it to the seller, it's like, okay, cool, check this out. Look, this is your property, and these are properties like your property. These properties, this is what they sold for. And if they sold in the last 6 months, then they're recent sales. And so that tells you and the seller, the homeowner, that these types of properties are still in the market. Like people are still buying these properties in this time range. You know what I'm saying? If you have a property that's been sold 5 years ago and it's just there hasn't been a sale since. There's properties for sale, but there hasn't been a sale since those 5 years. Like something's wrong with that area. Something's wrong with that property. Something's wrong. You gotta figure it out before you decide to use that as a comp. You know what I'm saying? So when you pull your comps, avoid major streets. We can do a little recap. Avoid major streets and intersections. Flooding properties closely similar. Beds, baths, square footage, zoning, area, neighborhood. Your comps will never exactly match, so adjust the pricing. Okay? Add to your subject property or subtract from your subject property, whatever you're comparing it to. Okay? Take a drive around the neighborhood. Check it out. See what it's like. Remember now, you can do it virtually, so you don't have to waste your gas. So you don't have to give those excuses like, "Oh, I don't have gas. I don't want to drive the neighborhood." Do it virtually. Okay? A lot of things are going on digital nowadays. And whenever possible, pull comps that have been recently sold. It's ideal to pull comps that have been recently sold. All right, guys? If you're interested in learning more, you already know what to do. Shoot me a email, reiopportunities18@gmail.com. I'll link everything into the video on how you can contact me, how you can ask me some questions, or how you can get how you can get in contact with Sean so that way he can make these amazing slideshows for you too. All right. Like I always say, Sean is a great guy. He always helps me out with these things, and I really appreciate him for it. I'll link his information into the description as well, so you guys can get that too. All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Much mahalos. You guys have a good one now. Okay. Shoot.